We are approaching the launch of 2.5 update for Genshin Impact. It is merely days away, and that means we're looking ahead to a new character release. Yes, Miss Yae Miko is on the horizon. She's going to be first half of 2.5, and then in the second half of 2.5, we're going to get the first reruns of two different characters, the Raiden Shogun and Sangonomiya Kokkami. So, those are two very different edges of the sword, you might say. One being the blunt end and one being the quite sharp end. I'm sure you can work out which one if you're a Genshin Impact player. Anyway, so this is the first guide I've been able to do, well, not guide, but this is the first video I've been able to do on these that I know Kokomi and I know Raiden Shogun. Raiden Shogun was the first 5-star I ever pulled. And honestly, no regrets. I got her extremely early in the pity, I'm not gonna lie, I got really lucky with Miss A. And don't regret it whatsoever. She has been a bit of a pain to build, not gonna lie, because I did not get the drops I wanted in the Emblem of Seven Fate domain, but hey, RNG gets us all sometimes. So, let's take a look at this then. In this video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna look ahead at 2.5. There's 3 characters that are gonna be on the banners. We do not know the rerun 4 stars yet, which is a little rough, not going to lie, but that doesn't matter too much. We're just going to concentrate on the 5 stars here and whether they're worth pulling, whether they're worth pulling constellations for, and stuff like that. Again, we are working off information that we have for Yae Miko because, well, Yae Miko is still not released yet, so we don't know the full details until she actually finds herself in that launcher and she finds herself in that client. And, you know, Yae Miko could go one of 2 ways. She could be underwhelming or she could be incredible and, yeah, be like the next Shogun release. Now, the hype around Yae Miko is pretty evident. She was trending instantly on Twitter when she was revealed as definitely confirmed to be a playable character all those weeks and weeks ago now. Now we've had all of the Genshin live stream to reveal a kit and everything. It's made the hype go insane for Yae Miko. There is art around all over the place. If you're around Genshin right now, all you'll be hearing is probably Yae Miko. And, to be honest, she's been long awaited, so fair play. It's gonna be a while before we get this much hype about a character again, because I don't think Kamisato Ayato is going to quite live up to that right now. Anyway, let's move into these 3 5 stars coming up then. So what we know about Yae Miko is that she's most likely going to be some sort of sub DPS. That is likely, that is not confirmed. She's almost certainly not a support. Let's put it that way. She has no healing in her kit from what we know. So she is definitely a damage dealer. We can still debate whether she is a main damage dealer or a support DPS or an off DPS or an off-field DPS. Most likely she is looking like an off-field DPS right now with the ability to make these totems that she can make 3 of and will deal constant ticking electro damage, which is really good. But she can do that while off the field, which suggests that she is going to be that sub DPS or that off-field damage dealer, which is, again, very interesting and probably going to do very well in mono electro comps. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how quite she fits into that. She is a catalyst. It's the first electro catalyst we have seen since the game's release, because that was obviously Lisa. And I think we can probably safely assume that she's going to be better than Lisa, considering she's the only Electro Catalyst 5-star. And yeah, it would be really bad if she wasn't that much better than Lisa, let's be honest. So her essential materials and stuff like that, they're pretty self-explanatory. She's going to need the Electro stuff and everything. See Ganoderma, things like that. The old handguards, she's going to need the fins from the new Sangonomiya bosses and stuff like that. We do, however, know that her talent level up materials are currently not something that's in the game. It's got a question mark on the Genshin Impact website. That's going to be the new boss drops. The new boss is going to be the Raiden Shogun, or whatever that thing is that looks very similar to the Raiden Shogun. So that you're going to have to go through the Raiden Shogun's second act of her story for as well. So there's going to be a lot of build up to this. You're not going to be able to build Yae Miko out fully immediately, because there's going to be a bit of story you're going to have to do. There's going to have to be a bit of grinding you're going to have to do for that new weekly boss. So you're not going to be able to create Yae Miko immediately. She's not going to be one of those characters where you can go, I've got all this saved up. She's going to go straight to level 90, straight to 10, 10, 10 talents. That's not going to happen. It's literally impossible to do that from within an hour of her releasing. So yeah, there's going to be some grinding for Yae Miko. There's going to be no insta god tier Yae Mikos around. The same cannot be for Kokkami and Ryden Shogun, because obviously we've seen them for a while now, and everyone kind of knows how they work. Plus, there has been the addition of Danconia, which is going to make it easier to farm for Kokkami as well, considering her Sango pearls, which were a bit of a pain, not going to lie, just finding on Watatsumi Island previously. But we're talking about Yae Miko here. So Yae Miko has a normal attack, summons 4 Kitsune spirits, initiating a maximum of 3 attacks that deal electro damage, fairly self-explanatory. Charge attack consumes a certain amount of stamina to deal AoE electro damage after a short casting time. Then you've got her talents, right? So, back in evocation, Sesshu Sakura. This moves her swiftly, leaving behind a Sesshu Sakura. This is the totems I was on about. She can do this 3 times. She's got 3 charges of this, leaving a total of 3 totems, obviously, which then will deal a certain amount of electro damage to nearby enemies. Fairly self-explanatory. Periodically strikes one nearby opponent with lightning, dealing electro damage. When there are other Sesshu Sakura nearby, their level will increase, boosting the damage dealt by these lightning strikes. So, you want to prioritize having the 3 out on the field? Pretty obvious. The skill has 3 charges. A maximum of 3 Sesshu Sakura can exist simultaneously. The initial level of each Sesshu Sakura is 1, and the initial highest level each Sakura can reach is 3. If a new Sesshu Sakura is created too close to an existing one, the existing one will be destroyed. So, pretty self-explanatory. And yeah, I mean, they've got it in the little thing. It deals up to... There's a total of 3k in one shot there, so that's not bad. That's not bad. Be interesting to see how that scales. Then we've got Great Secret Art Tenko Kenshin. So this is her elemental burst, I believe. Summons a lightning strike dealing AoE electro damage. When she uses this skill, Yae Miko will unseal nearby Sesshu Sakura, destroying their outer forms and transforming them into Tenko thunderbolts that descend from the skies, dealing AoE damage. AoE electro damage, I should say. Each Sesshu Sakura destroyed in this way will create 1 Tenko Thunderbolt. So it is pretty obvious that the thing is, before you want to activate this elemental burst, you want to have all 3 Sesshu Sakura out on the field. So you want to have used your elemental skill before you use your elemental burst. So that's Yae Miko's kit. It's not a massively flashy, oh my god, there's so much here sort of kit. But it is an interesting one. From what we heard, also in the reveal on the live stream, is that she is going to use Elemental Mastery to a certain extent. How much she will use that is unclear. Whether we would need main stat Elemental Mastery, or whether we would be fine with just sort of topping that up with substats on artifacts, it is yet to see. But we do see that her so-called best in slot, or the weapon that's made for her, is going to not have that elemental mastery substat on it. It's going to be a crit damage. So I think that will tell you that even though elemental mastery is going to be wanted and it's going to be nice to have, it's also not going to be you've got to have it, you've got to have that on the main stat. That's what I would say right now, but that is my presumptions from what we've seen so far. So that's Yae Miko. Honestly, I love Yae Miko. I mean, I've loved Yae Miko since I first saw her in the story of Inazuma. And it's very difficult for me to say don't pull for Yae Miko. Because, believe me, if I had the ability to, I'd C6 her. But we also don't know what her constellations are, so I can't make any word on her constellations so far, because we just don't know. And we're not working off League 6, that's not what we do. But Yae Miko is a beautiful character. She looks really, really interesting and kind of unique, so I don't think you will be regretting pulling for her. But right now we do not have enough information to know whether you should or not. However, for the other two we can talk about, we definitely can make these assumptions. So let's move on and talk about Sangonomiya Kokkami and Ryden Shogun. There is a clear winner here. If you directly compare the two, if you don't have any preferences, if you directly compare the two, there is a clear winner on who is the more powerful and who is the more impactful. However, this can change depending on your needs, on your account, and what you already have. So, I'll give you some examples and we'll work from there, right? Let's start off with Kokkami, because Kokkami is the very much contentious one here, because she came into Genshin with a lot of she didn't come in with the best rep because she can't crit, but honestly, don't hold that against her. She still does a lovely amount of damage, even though she can't crit. And to be honest, she's a really, really good character. And I think a lot of people have actually realized this now, many months from her release, that she is actually darn good. And she becomes a very good replacement if you don't have someone like Mona for Hydro application. She can be very, very good for that. And she does come with the bonus of healing an absolute megaton of, HP. So she is very, very, very good. And I do think she got a little bit of, and still does sometimes get a little bit of ill rep from some of the community when she doesn't really deserve it. Having used it for so long, I would never go back on not having Kokkami. So there is, don't pull for Everlasting Moonglow though, which is her signature weapon. That's really not needed. Free to play options like Threading Tales of Dragon Slayers and Prototype Amber are really good on Kokkami, and you really don't need to go spending Primogen on Everlasting Moonglow unless you really are a Kokkami simp. But yeah, we'll leave that for other videos. There will be a Kokkami guide coming out very, very soon. It's recorded as time of recording this as well. So Kokkami can be built as a main DPS, but most people see her as a support, and with the introduction of the Ocean Hued Clam set, which came out in Genshin after Kokkami's release, it has made her much better. But also, she was fine with things like previous sets like the Heart of Depth or Tenacity of the Middleness sets. I even actually run Maiden Beloved on her once, and it was fine. So honestly, she's very easy to build as well. You just need to whack a load of HP percentage on her if you just want her as a support, and she'll be fine. And she'll still do a very nice amount of damage because she all scales off HP percent and HP, or off HP I should say. So she's actually really easy to build. Now, when it comes to your account and your own unique circumstances, I think it depends on what protection and what assets you already have available to your team. Because something I have found since 2.4 is that I am using Kokkami a lot less. Now, I know that doesn't sound good for someone who's trying to say, well, pull for Kokkami. I'm not saying pull for Kokkami, actually. But in terms of setting her, I know I'm not doing her any favors here, but I find I'm using her less because I have Zhongli. And Zhongli is so good at basically negating any damage coming in that if you use her as a support, you probably won't be needing that much support. So you normally get enough healing out of something like a Bennett or even a Xingqiu at times through his ultimate, through his elemental burst. So you don't find yourself needing the big beefy HP output on that healing from that jellyfish of Kokkami's. So yeah, I have found this kind of stepping back, and it is sort of led me to possibly think about turning her into a main DPS and using her in a sort of Tesla comp with someone like Beidou, which could be also very, very useful. And she is probably one of her higher usage in the Spiral Abyss right now, alongside being a very, very good counter for the wolves with the corrosion, because as we all know, corrosion does go through barriers. And Kokkami will be probably quite good against the up-and-coming enemies that are going to be put in Untitled, which will have a slight counteraction to shields. They'll be able to proc their own shields if they damage you and you have a shield on you. So it is a nerf to Zhongli and people like that, but it is sort of a buff to Kokkami, because the great thing about Kokkami is because she is able to heal so much, you can kind of tank damage when you've got that Kokkami jellyfish on the shield, on the field, which is really, really cool. And yeah, I've used it a lot in the past in that way. Let's move on to Raiden Shogun though. Raiden Shogun is powerful. When built right, she is incredibly powerful. And she is also nicely buildable because her best in slot is the Emblem of Severed Fate set. It works so perfectly for her. You would force it just for the passive it gets, and that is in such a resin efficient domain alongside Shimanara's Reminiscence, which can be a substitute for gladiators, which is just, it's that domain in Inazuma, the Shimanara's Reminiscence and Emblem of Severed Fate domain is the most resin efficient domain in the game, most likely, simply because Emblem can be used on so many characters, even people like Shincho. And then you've got Shimanara's Reminiscence, which can be used on anyone who just wants a two-piece attack percent boost. Because the buff from the two-piece of Shimanara's Reminiscence is exactly the same as the one from the Gladiators. So, coming back to Ryden, she does do a massive, massive amount of burst damage when built correctly. We have seen the massive damage that she can do. It can be in the hundreds of thousands, and if you want to do that damage per screenshot with food and everything, it can even be in the millions if you really want it to be. But she is really, really good and really, really satisfying. Really satisfying. I also love her E. Now, although you shouldn't rely on her E for damage, sometimes I even find myself using Raiden Shogun alongside someone like Ganyu. And then when you've proc that E and then you're shooting cryo shots with Ganyu, it is really nice and does add a massive buff. And then you're able to pull that, using as a sub DPS in that role, pull that blade every now and then, which just wipes out some people. It is really nice. She is a really good character. And she can be a little bit technical to build, and especially when you look at all of the wording when it comes to Raiden Shogun in her character screens and stuff like that, it can be very daunting, but it's made to look much more complicated than it actually is. The only complicated stuff is the energy recharge stuff, because she can do more damage based on her energy recharge, especially when using the Emblem of Severed Fate set, and if you have a best in slot Engulfing Lightning, which is a weapon worth pulling if you already have Raiden, or if you're a whale. But prioritize, yeah, just Ryden needs to be built properly. And if you have something like Engulfing Lightning or even the Catch, which is free to play, then it changes the way you use the sands on there, because you can sometimes, you will move over properly to an attack percent sands because you have so much energy recharge that you can get diminishing returns. So there are some Raidens with 300% energy recharge, which is kind of crazy, and it does come to diminishing returns at some points. But yeah, it's complicated at times. But I really do believe in Raiden Shogun a lot, even though she's kind of put me through hell farming for her at times. But I really do believe in the Raiden Shogun a lot. And when it comes to constellations for both of these characters, I would not pull for Kokkami constellations. I don't think they're worth anything. I really, really don't. Kokkami, if you're pulling for constellations on Kokkami, you're diminishing returns at that point. I really think, to be honest, one Kokkami is enough. As long as you have Kokkami, she is going to do a megaton of healing. She can tick up to 6k per tick with that jellyfish of healing, which is perfectly fine. You're not going to need any more than that. And unless you're a mega Kokkami simp and you want the C6 Kokkami, I wouldn't pull for her constellations. You would be so much more, you'd be so much better if you don't have C6 Ryden, or especially if you have C0 Ryden, or if you don't have Ryden at all. You'll be so much better pulling for Ryden if you don't have Ryden, or no, if you do have Ryden at C0 and you have Kokkami at C0 like I do, and it was a choice between either to get constellations on, please go for Ryden. Her first 3 constellations are really good for her own personal damage. C3 Ryden is probably a very sweet spot, because that is where you're going to get the most of your personal damage out of her, because above that is when it starts to become more party-based and more team-based buffs, which is sometimes not always what you want with Ryden. So if you want constellations, and you're not C6ing Yae Miko, then Raiden Shogun is going to be your best bet on this banner. And possibly, depending on the constellations that Yae Miko has, Ryden might be the best option on this banner for constellations if you're going to pull for them. Now, honestly, it's difficult to weigh up between whether you should pull for constellations or engulfing lightning. We do not know what the weapon banner is, but I'd be very, very surprised if engulfing lightning did not come back alongside Ryden. I would expect the weapon banner alongside these reruns to be Everlasting Moonglow and Engulfing Lightning. It does mean that you can end up with a donut when pulling for the Engulfing Lightning, which is a bit of a rip, but hey, sometimes that happens. We are subject to gacha. Anyway, those are my thoughts on these two. So, to round it out, Yae Miko, simp for her. Just simp for her. She's... yeah, okay. We If you want to see 6 Yae Miko, I'm never going to stop you. Believe me, I won't. I wouldn't. I would if I could, though. I would if I could see 6, so I would. But I will be pulling for Yae Miko. I will definitely not be pulling for Kokkami. Don't pull for Kokkami constellations. Please don't. If you want a really massive HP healer, then Kokkami is your go-to gal. She is perfect for that. But probably, aside from Yae Miko, Raiden Shogun will be the pull star of 2.5, and the 2.5 second half, it will be the Raiden show. That's for sure. Because people will be going for constellations, or they will be going for the first Raiden. Because she is so good. So good. And it'll be probably the last, unless we get Venti, which we don't know, it might be the last Archon rerun before we get a Dendro Archon, possibly. Who knows? But hey, that's good. Okay, that is going to be it for this one. Stay tuned. This has been longer than I wanted, not going to lie, but stay tuned for more updates coming through. Guide for Sangonomiya Kokkami, guide for Raiden Shogun coming very, very soon, and then eventually when Yae Miko releases, a guide for Yae Miko as well, and obviously a pull video maybe sometime in the future, along with Overwatch stuff coming as well. But I'm going to leave it here for this one. Thank you all for joining. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are new. Turn the notifications on to make sure you get told when those videos go live. Share this stuff around if you believe it is good content and other people should see it, because it really, really does help out the channel. Thank you all for the support recently, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.